Pulse of Boxing, powered by the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame, where boxing history comes to life. I am Rob Scott. September 26th through the 28th is coming up very, very quickly. And for those who don't know those dates, that's when the Hard Rock Casino, Hotel and Casino Atlantic City is hosting, playing host to the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame, where it's the induction weekends. As always, it's going to be a knockout. What I wanted to do is I wanted to sit down with some of the inductees prior to their induction, just to kind of pick their brains, just to see, what made them tick in boxing. And I'm fortunate enough to be with one of the inductees right now, one of the hardest hitters in the history of the sport, and one of the nicest guys as well. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody, Julian the Hawk Jackson. How you doing, sir?
All right, man. It's always a blessing to be, on the podcast, and I appreciate you guys. Atlantic, from Atlantic City. Atlantic City was one of my favorite places to fight.
Well, that's what I wanted to touch bases on as far as like your experiences in Atlantic City. You scored some, well, throughout your career, you scored some very, very
Right.
memorable knockouts, but you definitely scored some in Atlantic City itself. One of them was being with Terry Norris, and another one Buster Drayton.
Buster Drayton, yes.
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, I I remember I was talking to David Toole before, and I was asking him about his pulverizing power. From my vantage point, I was thinking somebody like a David Toole, Pacquiao, and Nassim Hamed. One thing about them is they had like these big, thick legs. So you could theorize that that's where their power comes from. But with you, your power was so pulverizing. But I need an explanation as to where did that power come from.
Wow. I really truly believe that it was a gift. Okay. My trainer, I remember as an amateur, my trainer, Willie Wilhelm George, um, told me, he says, listen, you don't have to crank up your punches and hit hard. You just throw the punch. You just have natural punching ability. And I listened to him, and I tell you what, I learned to use my shoulders, my hip, my knees, my toes, my toenail in every punch. I would turn. If I throw my right hand, I'm going to throw my whole right side, and I'm going to pivot. I'm going to turn into that right hand, and it's like it's like a baseball player. He catches a ball all the way in right field, and in order for him to throw that ball home to the home plate, he got to give everything. He got to put his whole body into that punch or into that throw. Well, the same thing with the right hand. You got to be able to punch. You got to be able to throw your shoulders, your hip. You know what I'm saying? Your thighs, your knees, and just turn everything over. And I learned that, and I think that definitely helped me. My timing was very good. Whenever I throw my right hand, I'm throwing my weight with it, and I think
Well,
that
it,
that's one of the keys to being a hard puncher.
well, it's funny because boxing is boxing, and going to be a lot of film footage of knockouts. And
Right.
I mentioned like David too. I mentioned like a lot of those guys, but even those guys with those incredible knockouts, there was a bit of a difference in their knockouts and your knockouts. It's almost
Right.
like as if like you've separated fighters from their mind, body, and spirit when you punch them. I mean, it's just it was always now it will always intrigue me. And like, one thing when I interview fighters, I've always found it where fighters have been hit hard, but
Right.
they can say that that's not the hardest punch that they've ever been hit with. They've been knocked out, and they can
Right.
honestly say that even though they were knocked out, that wasn't necessarily their toughest opponent.
Right. I
If that
understand.
can even be thought of. With that being said, you've faced a lot of decent punchers, namely one Gerald McClellan.
Yes, Gerald. Oh man, wow.
Rate his punching power. Where does he stand? as far as who of all the people that have hit you?
I think Gerald is one of the um, great punchers as well. He's up there in the, I would say, the top five. That I believe tremendous punchers. In going into that fight, I told him, one of us, you know, because he has punching power. I knew he has punching power. I looked at his fight. He looks at my fight. He saw that I had punching power as well. I said that if I clip him, if I get you, I'm going to take you out. And I said, and he said vice versa, the same thing. And I guess I dropped my hands, and I was the one that got clipped from him. And I was hurt, and but I tell you what, I felt that I could have continued, but still, it was the referee discretion. But every time we get hit, you know, uh, and let's be real. I'm going to be real about this. You can get a concussion, you know what I'm saying, and your chin could become a little more weak. Every knockout that you get, or every hard punch that you get, can affect you. And I tell you what, the boxing is a sport that actually deals with hit and don't be hit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the theories. That's one of the things that I went into my fights with. And I got hit, and no matter what a fight you go into, you're going to get hit, and you got to be able to take the punch. And I was able to take some punches, and there were times I was not able to take, certain punches. Again, whenever I deliver a good punch, I believe once I throw that punch correctly, and I hit you on the chin or on the temple or in the body, it is going to definitely affect you. It's going to definitely, knock you down or knock you out. And that's because I threw my punches correctly. That's because I use my body behind my punches. And any hitter, Gerald McLennan was also a very good puncher. He used his body. Believe it or not, we just had a lot of good punchers have that ability, to use the punch. You could look at any of the upcoming fighters today. Tank Davis, Crawford. Even though they may not be big guys, strong-looking guys, but they're heavy-handed because of their ability to use their body behind their punches.
Now I said, that people have been knocked out, people have been had losses, and but it varies as to what people where people will put them on the pecking order, if you will.
Right.
But as far as your career goes, tell me what fighter stands out the most as far as like from an overall standpoint, hitting, hardest to hit, the one with the best chin. What fighter was the most full
Tate. There
package
was a guy by the
opponent?
name of Tate. Frank Tate. I think it's Tate. Yeah. He was a very clever boxer. He was a good boxer. Um, and, we went, I think the distance, I think I stopped him either it was a 12 round fight. It was a championship fight. And this kid was a good boxer. Um, I knew about him. I heard about him. I can't remember if he was my spar mate or not, but he was a tremendous, um, boxer. He was like a Sugar Ray Leonard, very good on his feet, good timing, good good movement, and that's something that I believe um, brought the best out of me. Sometimes a lot of the fighters tend to, face, sluggers, boxers, guys that move, and that's when they would show their talent as well. And that's the type of fighter I was. If you are a good boxer, it's going to bring the boxing out of me. I love to punch. I love to sit on my punches. I like to, brawl, but I also can box, and I tend to flow with my opponent. Terry Norris was a tremendous boxer as well, and a lot of people expected him to beat me. As a matter of fact, and I realized that in order to stop him, I had to, use my technique, and my technique was to pressure him and to keep on top of him. And when I did that, it opened the door for me, okay, to get off my punches. And once I get off my punches, believe me, when I feel that shock in my elbow, I know it's over.
Well, that spectacular knockout did happen in Atlantic City, and you mentioned earlier your memories of Atlantic City. Give us some of your memories of Atlantic City, and
I
how
met
did it stand out?
Aaron Pryor in Atlantic City, man. Oh my goodness, that was that's the first Hawk. That's the true Hawk too. And, I call him the true Hawk. He was one of my favorite boxers that I followed, Aaron Pryor, and I saw him and Alexis Aguayo.
Mm.
Okay, I looked at that fight as an amateur. Okay, I was an amateur just getting ready to turn pro, and I saw Aaron Pryor and Alexis Aguayo go at it, and it was amazing. Um, and I had the opportunity to literally meet Aaron Pryor in Atlantic City. And I trained. Listen, I looked at him hitting the bag, the heavy bag. He was working out. He was getting ready for a fight, and I had the opportunity to watch this brother, man. Oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it. I picked up some stuff from him, and I took that baby. I took it home in my bag. I'm talking about his style, the way he punched, the way he moved on the bag. I stayed there for the whole time he was training, and I believe that I picked up some stuff from him. But again, I didn't, steal his name. I got my name from a friend here in the Virgin Islands, because here in the Virgin Islands there's a lot of chicken hawks, and there's a lot of chicken. We have a lot of wild chickens, and my friend said, "Julian, man, you know what? I'm gonna call you the hawk." You see, you know why? Because a lot of those chickens are running from you. A lot of those guys don't want to face you. You know, even as an amateur, during that time, he used to call me the Hawk. And it stuck with me. And then I finally met Aaron Pryor, the Hawk. He was the Hawk. He was, oh man, it was just a blessing. And when when I spoke to him, he says, "Man, the Hawk, you're the Hawk too." I said, "Yeah, and it's a blessing to meet you, man, the true Hawk." And we shared, a lot together. We talk a lot, and I saw him fight there in Atlantic City as well. I didn't have the opportunity to be on the undercard, but I was able to, see him fight.
Now, you're working with a lot of fighters now, or young
Yes.
fighters. You transitioned into that. So how was that transition from becoming a fighter to a trainer and an advisor?
Wow. I think it was something that, um, just took its course. A lot of people wanted me to come back into the ring, but I told them that, I would rather come home to the Virgin Islands and I would start a boxing program. And I started you know, training, my sons. You know what I'm saying? I took, uh, believe it or not, I took 3 of them to the Olympics, and it's been a tremendous, I think, privilege to give back. You know, um,
I often say this. I don't know if you know Iceman Scully, John Iceman Scully. Shout out to him. Very, very good guy, or what have you. But one thing about him is that, there's so many fighters that I've spoken to that great fighters that I've spoken to that they've gave their heart and their soul to the sport, but then you ask them now, is like, where is that heart now to the sport? Like, do you still watch the sport? Do you still have an affection for the sport? And they say no. With John Scully, he still has that affection for the
right.
sport. You still training these young kids or whatever,
Still have it, man.
you still have that affection.
You
Where
better
does
believe
this
it.
affection come from?
Huh?
Where does this affection come from for the sport? Where there's so many people that have
I think it's
lost.
something that that you tend to develop, according to your mind, I respect the sport, man. You have to respect the sport of boxing. If you don't, it will not respect you. And I realized that my coach Wilhelm George, Sustin Verle, they always tell me, he says, listen, don't get caught up, okay, with all of the bling bling and all of the stuff, that boxing can draw the wrong people around you. You can become a world champion, and you can attract a lot of different stuff out there. And believe me, I realize that. I understand that. I've been all over the world, and I've had people come to me, invited me to a party, inviting me, to certain things that I know, would have probably affected me if I had allowed myself to, go into it, or go, get involved in whatever it was. But I decided not to, man. And I believe that helped me a whole lot. And boxing was something that, that made me, you know, the man that I am. And I wanted to give back, especially to my country. What boxing had done for me, and what my country had stood behind me, being from the Virgin Islands. It's only 32 square miles, you know what I'm saying? And I had the opportunity to go to the Olympics, but it got canceled. It was boycotted by I think it's President Carter, and I was not able to go to the Olympics. But still, I had the opportunity. My sons, my 2 sons, as a matter of fact, 4 of my sons went to the Olympics. Okay, and it was just a tremendous experience. And not, you know, um, I didn't have the opportunity to box though, as a young man, but my sons had the opportunity to go in there and compete, and became Olympians. You know what I'm saying? And man, it is the greatest thing that I think, affects the amateur pedigree, the amateur background. To make it into the Olympics. And I had the opportunity to make it, even though I did not go in to fight. I was there as a coach.
Let's back up a little bit. Let's just, and I should have even started out with this, and that is like, what brought you to the sport? Like,
Oh
the
man,
first the first time you put a pair of gloves on, or
my
what brought
mother,
you to
man,
those?
my mother, God
Yes.
bless her soul. She's in heaven. I tell you that. But my mother was. I'm going to be real with you. I want to be real with the audience. My mother was an alcoholic. Okay, and she, um, I was very close to her. Call me maybe you call me a mama boy, whatever you want to call me. But I love my mother. Uh, there are times she used to try to chase me out of the house and tell me, go with your friends, go with your brothers, go and play with them. Why you in the house? And she, she said, look, I want you to join something, get involved in a club, do something, get involved in some kind of program. So she was sort of like, trying to get me out of the way. And but I was a mom boy. I was close to my mom. My dad was not around. I had a visiting father. What I'm saying? And I think a lot of people can, I think, relate to what I'm saying. And my mother was everything to me, and she was dad, but she did her best, you know. But one day she told me, go and join a program. Well, I decided that I'm going to join the boxing program, and I knew that she would say, no, don't do that. I don't want you in the boxing program. But guess what? When I came home and I said, Mom, guess what? I joined a program. She said, oh, yeah, you did? I said, yeah. I said, boxing. And I thought I was going to get a negative response from her. And she says, good. Wow. When are you going to go? When are you going to start boxing? When are you going to? I was like, Ma, it's boxing. I'm going to get hurt. She said, well, good.
Hey,
I literally thought that she would have disagreed with me, but she agreed. And she, as a matter of fact, she sort of was the one that got me involved because of her chasing me, wanting me to get involved in the program. I decided that I'm going to go to a boxing program. I had a friend that actually was there too, and I went there and I started training, and I came home with a bust nose, and I thought my mother would have been angry, you know, but tell you what, she says, man, this program is going to do good for you. My mother told me that. And believe it or not, I stayed, I somehow I end up liking it. And the rest is history. Um, it was just crazy. I just did not understand, you know. I thought that, it was something that I was just going to get into and then get out of it. But let me tell you something. It's just like a fish when it grabs the bait. I didn't just grab the bait, but I got the hook, line, and sinker, man. I got everything, and the rest is history. I found out who Julian Jackson was. I found out, I had a low self-esteem about myself, and believe me, boxing literally caused me to feel better about myself. Um, I started doing a lot better in school. I don't know. It's like it transformed me, and my mother as well was I don't know if she knew, I don't know, but she was really happy that I was involved, in a program, regardless of what it was. But she was just glad that I was in a program. But when she realized it was boxing, she was, you know I believe, concerned but still happy. You know, some
well,
parents, I know a lot of parents, when they come to the gym and they see what's happening on the TV, they think it's happening with the amateurs. And I say, no, no, amateur boxing is a lot more safety involved, headgears, all kinds of different, gears, protection, the way we work. So there, many times I have to try and have the parents to come to see what we do in the amateur program that I have. We have a very extensive boxing program here in the Virgin Islands, and we have taken at least 4 to 5 guys to the Olympics. And again, a lot
well,
of
I wanted to touch on your training. You started out and you had teachers.
yes,
And as you transition into being a teacher, you may have picked up certain things from those
oh
teachers,
definitely,
but What has Julian Jackson brought to the table in the sense of, like, not being so much of a carbon copy? Because there's some things that I know that they taught you that you may not be able to teach somebody else.
Right.
But what does what's break down Julian Jackson's technique
Well,
as far as like being a trainer?
as far as training is concerned, one of the things that even my sons recognize it, um, because I end up training them as well, and they would tell me, say, Dad, you know, you are a very defensive. Defense is one of my, I think, strong points as far as training is concerned. Um, you know, you've got to have a good um, foundation. If you're going to be a good boxer, you have to have a good form, a good stand. You have to have a good defense as well as a good offense. A lot of people believe that my offense was my defense, but I did have a very good defense as well. And a lot of fighters didn't realize that I would pick punches off, but I would react right after they deliver a punch, and I would react and respond to them very quickly. And that's one of the things that I've been training my athletes here in the Virgin Islands. We have, I mean, we have done a lot everywhere we go. I believe that we come back with a lot of trophies, medals. Training a guy from the beginning, from scratch, is not easy. You know, and that's something that I believe that really tells a good coach, a good trainer, when you could bring a guy from scratch, when you could bring him from amateurs, take him into professional, and I think that's something that a lot of fighters um, sometimes don't really get into. Even though they were in boxing, even though they became a world champion, they don't have the mindset to train or to give or to teach, what they have been taught. And I believe my trainers, Willie, Sustin Vele, these men actually became almost like my, my father, my dad wasn't there with me, but my trainers always took me under you know, their roof, and I became like their sons. And I realized in order to reach any young man, any young women, and girls also are a part of the boxing program, you have to respect them and they have to respect you. Respect is one of the key to, I believe, having an athlete that will go out there and make a difference because of the relationship between the coach and the athlete. And it's very important. I really believe that with all my heart. And I think, you know, I have taken four of my athletes to the Olympics. And I think that in itself says a lot.
From your vantage point, from your personal standpoint, boxing, past and present, what's the difference?
Uh, Boxing is a sport that I think, wow, I've always said this, this is my fourth or fifth time being inducted. And I've always said that boxers are unique people, believe it or not. And some are very hard, tough, when it comes to life. Um, and some are angels, some are just amazing, some are just incredible. But yet, in every boxer's heart, there is a spot, there is a place. I believe that we have to submit, we have to surrender. We bring our bodies to a place we have to you know we reject a lot of different things that you know we would like to get involved with, but because of the conditioning, because of you know what we have in place, and when I say what we have in place, the level that we have to get to, the championships that we want to get, we want to step up in the ranking. So but we have to be able to I believe submit ourselves, you know, and resist the things that can work against you, that can destroy you. You know, the bling bling, the life out there in boxing, outside of boxing. Uh, a lot of people love boxers, and you know, you know, I'm gonna sit and say honestly, we draw a lot of negative things. Believe me, champions will draw people that will come and want to have a good time, but not realizing that you know it can have an effect on you. You might have
But do
friends.
you see it? Do you see a difference in like from my vantage point? And you used to fight when there wasn't a internet and things like that. Where from my vantage point, in so many cases, you have a lot of talented fighters, but those talented fighters are throwing their biggest punch over the internet as opposed to in the ring. Do you think that the modern day fighters are less competitive or more like it's because some people are less competitive in the sense of because they're just not they don't have the heart of yesteryear, but some of are just less competitive because they have become somewhat business minded, and the
Right,
thing
right,
about it is their form of business is not bringing people pleasure because they're not fighting. You
right,
fought
right. I understand
you
what you're saying. Yes,
yeah, you
I
fought
understand.
so many. Yeah, I mean, you've seen so many guys in the past, and and I take it that you follow fights today.
Yes.
What fighters stand out to you as being like real warriors of modern day boxing?
Wow. One of my favorites is Bud Crawford.
Mm.
Oh man, this kid is amazing. He's real. You know where he came from, and I think he understands, and he realized you know where he came from, and he's not as flamboyant as a lot of others are. I think he's down to earth. He respects the sport as well. You know, and there's a lot of other fighters out there that may not be as you know humble. You know, let me put it that way: humble as they should be, and a little too flamboyant. Uh, you know, uh, they tend to uh, you know want to give a lot of their themselves to the sport as well as to the you know uh, the people outside of the sport. Um, a lot of people tend to look at
And
fighters as
sometimes they give themselves to the wrong people outside of the
the
sport.
wrong people outside. Exactly. That's maybe what I wanted to say as well. You know, parties, drinking, you know, lifestyle. Money can have an effect. You know, big money. You start fighting for big money, and but it's according to your mind, according to your heart, according to your faith, according to your belief, and who you are as a person determines, you know, really what's going to happen. You know, I remember um, as a young athlete growing up, I was undefeated, and I remember an article here in the Virgin Islands in the Daily News. Um, a lot of people, the article said um, they want to see if the sport of boxing is going to turn uh, Julian Jackson around, if it's going to have a negative effect on his life. I never forget that article, and wow, it's amazing. Even though uh, I was, coming up, and I mean, the highlights and the just the magnitude of what was happening in my career. Um, I've never changed my mindset. I've never allowed myself to get, I would say, caught up, to where I think that I am better than anybody else. No, I humble myself, irregardless. It doesn't matter where I'm at. It doesn't matter who I'm dealing with. I always realize that, you know, um, we just got to show, what we have. We just have to believe in who we are, and that's one of the motto. That's one of the things them that I stick close to. That I always wanted to be me. I don't want to be nobody else. I'm a humble person. I'm a good-hearted person, and I want to keep that. Boxing should not be able to change me, because God, is in my life, and if God is the one that I'm trusting in, I can't let money, I can't let fame, I can't let anything, come into my life and change me, and I've always kept that, in my heart, in my mind.
Now, any regrets? What are the things that if you had the opportunity to go back and change, what would it be?
No regrets, as far as boxing and thing, but yes, I have some, you know, I'll be real with you, and it has to do with, the promoters. You know what I'm saying? You know, you can hook up with a real good promoter. Dan King was a tremendous promoter. You know what I'm saying? But there was two sides. And I was able to, deal with both sides. You know,
Well,
and like I would always say, if I had my way, you know, if I have my way to do it over again, I would definitely, you know, um, deal with a different promoter, and that's really, that's just facts. That's just how I felt. That's just how, you know. Sometimes you deal with people, and they have their mindset, and you know, and it seems to be very, um, hard sometimes, but they have their way of dealing with, whoever they deal with, and that's the way they deal with you, and you may not like it, but you know it's just things that you have to be able to, I believe, stand up and just show yourself that, hey, I don't like this, man, and that's something that
yeah, and
I always tried to do, and somebody called me uncle son, says and just because I wanted the best, not only for me but for my, you know my corner, the people around me.
well, one thing about it is your career is definitely is one of those that stand out, and that's one of the reasons why you definitely were a shoe in for the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame, and
Man, thank
definitely
you.
look forward to you walking across that stage. I mean, you're going to be on that stage with some people. I mean, they're not only with the inductees that you're inducted with, but there's also a lot of people, dignitaries coming through. We got Riddick Bowe, Lennox
Wow,
Lewis, Michael Spinks, Pinklin Thomas, Nate Campbell,
beautiful.
Shannon Briggs, Ray Mercer, Sean Ben Mitchell, William Joppy, Steve Cunningham, Michael Nunn, Kelly Pavlik,
Awesome.
Yaki Lopez, Danny Lopez. All those guys are scheduled to show up, but also, as far as, your fellow inductees. You know, you got Joe Cortez, you got
Oh yeah, that's my
um,
boy.
Stevie Collins, Charles Murray, Charles Brewer,
Wow.
Jolene Mazzone. Shout out to Jolene. Definitely, I love her. Sean O'Grady, Tommy Brooks, who just passed recently, but
Okay.
his name will still definitely be
Awesome. Awesome.
out there. But you know, there's so many people. Have you ever been to an induction ceremony in Atlantic City?
In Atlantic City?
Yeah, not
Um,
inducted, but have you ever been to an Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame induction ceremony?
no.
Well, buckle up because it's the event of the year every year, and
Awesome,
this
man.
is
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I've been to Canastota, you
well,
know.
Canastota. I mean, Canastota is kind of hard to beat, but guess what? We definitely have our gloves up, and we're definitely
Right.
ready to throw some punches because the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame is definitely year after year gets better and better, and this is no different. With your
Beautiful.
induction, it makes it even much more better.
Okay, and I'm
I
looking
want to
forward
thank
to it.
you. I want to thank you for taking the time to talk. Again, I look forward to seeing you walk across that stage for your much deserved induction. You know, keep teaching those kids how to hit hard. You know,
All right, man. And I appreciate you guys for inducting me again. I really appreciate it. And again, you know, boxing, is it was something that was a life changing effect for me. And I believe by going back and doing it for others, I've taken guys out of the prison. One of my fighters was a prison and in the prison, and I told him, I wrote a letter, and I said when he comes out, I want him to come to the gym, and he came to the gym, and now um, he won a championship, amateur championship. It's just amazing, and a lot of people are amazed to see what has happened to him. His life has been totally turned around, and that's what boxing is about too. It can
well,
change the life, of an individual. And I just love the sport of boxing, and I think again, that you guys are doing a tremendous by just giving us this opportunity again to smile and to feel you know uh, uh, as champions again.
oh yeah, no doubt. Well, as long as there are people like you and still in the boxing game who still have that love for the sport will never die. And I definitely thank you for your presence.
I'm a Christian now. I'm a minister. I'm an evangelist, and yeah, and it's just amazing how God in I as a matter of fact, God found me when I was going to Las Vegas. Okay, I was going to Las Vegas when God came into my life. I was going to Sin City when I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior on the airport, going to Las Vegas, and I've never looked back since.
Well, I can tell. We spoke to each other years ago here in Atlantic
Yes,
City. You were training the fighter, and I can just tell that from your aura and your you know,
yes,
I guess for lack of a better word, your aura is just you can tell that where your heart is. And
amen.
again, like I said, as long as we have people like you in boxing, I think the kids are going to be in good hands, but also I think the sport will be in the good hands.
God bless you, man. Thank you very much. And